Hello and welcome to another episode of Beer Talk. As always, I'm your host, Maalik Stark. And today we are talking to Jeff Musselman of Evergrain Brewing Company. He's one of the brewers. And I will be drinking one of their famous beers, Naked and Afraid. Or no, Naked and Fishing. Very different. As always, we want to thank the PLCB for making this show possible. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at cheers_PA. And look out for new episodes every other Thursday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get podcasts. So without further ado, Jeff.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm all right.
Good.
Yeah, like you said, I just want to talk about like you and your experience as far as being a brewer in the beer industry in general. So
Yeah,
I guess
absolutely.
First question, how'd you get started in it?
So this is actually going into my 17th year brewing. And pretty much like a lot of brewers out there, I got the brewing bug, started home brewing in college and legally. And I actually was 21. But the brewing bug kind of bit me. I graduated with a chemistry degree. And at the time, I was kind of in my mid-20s and trying to figure out what the heck I wanted to do with my life. And I figured, you know what? Somebody's got to brew beer for a living, right? That's got to be a job.
Yeah.
So I looked into it, and I actually went to UC Davis, University of California, Davis, and attended their Master Brewers program back in 2007, and been brewing professionally since.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I did a little bit of home brewing. I more so just hung out with all the people who knew what they were doing. And yeah. I mean, that experience has to be exactly what gets most people into it, in my opinion.
I think so. Yeah, and I mean, this is an industry where there's been like no clear path. And I'm sure you've talked to many other brewers at this point in time, but I think one of the common threads has been starting, in your kitchen stove and just experimenting and having fun.
What was the first beer that you made as far as like home brewing? Do you remember?
First drinkable one or first good?
Well, we can count the ones that weren't drinkable.
I think your first batches, you convince yourself that they're good because you put your heart and soul into it. But looking back at it, they were bad. They were just bad beer. I think the first homebrew batch I ever brewed was like a oatmeal stout or something like that. Okay. And it was not good. Plain and simple. I mean, it's gotten a lot better since then, but it was a little bit rough there at the beginning.
Fair enough. So you said oatmeal stout, when was that still done like in kits? Like they would just send you everything and like it was like directions to follow? Because I remember doing it on the stove and we end up moving outside and doing it.
Yeah.
Like how did that? I just don't know as far as.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, everybody has a little bit different path, but I definitely started with, I think I probably did 2 or 3 batches that were extract batches. You buy the kit off the shelf. We've got a great, I live in the Harrisburg area. We've got a great homebrew store called Scotts & Brothers. They have a ton of kits, and I think probably my first 3 or 4 were just extract kits off the shelf. And then I kind of like, that limits your control over the final product a little bit. So I think I graduated to all grain brewing probably within like 4 or 5 batches. Like I said, it just kind of was a bug that bit me and kept going.
Yeah, fair enough. I assume you went from like bottling it with like priming sugar and then went into kegging it, or was it straight to like you had a kegerator set up already?
Yeah, I definitely did bottles at first, and that's just it's the least fun part of home brewing for sure. And it requires a lot of patience. I think I got my first kegerator set up when I was after graduated from college and had a stable job and an income and could invest a little bit into kegging equipment. That made life so much easier.
Fair.
And less blowing up bottles too.
Yeah, because that always tends to happen at least once.
Inevitably happens.
Yeah. So you said you went to school in California, and I assume brewing didn't bring you to Pennsylvania. So what did you do before that?
So my degree is in chemistry. My first job out of college was at a pharmaceutical company, Merck, outside
Okay.
of Philly. And I was a research assistant in the lab, mixing chemicals for about 4 years before I decided to pursue brewing as a career. It's kind of at that mid 20s, what do I do with my life kind of moment.
Yeah.
Decided that um, brewing was a little bit more the side of chemistry I enjoyed
Yeah.
versus pharmaceuticals.
Which, I mean, it would have to be a big part of it. Like, I haven't brewed in a long time, but like I talked to a lot of them, and I mean, it all sounds like chemistry has to help with that. So,
Yeah, I've been doing this for, like I said, this is going into my 17th year. And the thing that has kept me going for this long is that it's science, but it's also artistry. It's a combination of the two. There's not many jobs out there where you get to combine art and science to create a product that people actually really enjoy. So, it's having a science background is beneficial in a lot of ways, but it's
mhm.
also not a requirement. Like there's a lot of brewers, like I said, for every brewery out there, there's a different path towards being a brewer. I just happen to I like knowing what's going on, the nuts and bolts of it. So
Yeah. Nice. Evergrain isn't the first brewery that you work for, right?
no, so when I got done with UC Davis, I moved back. I'm from Pennsylvania. I moved back here, started applying for jobs. I ended up over in Easton, PA, at Weyerbacher. Started there in 2007. I'm from the Harrisburg area, and when Troegs was in Harrisburg, I moved back to the area about 2009. Worked for them for about 4.5 years, both in Harrisburg and Hershey. Then I took a little break from beer. I actually did hard cider down at a place called Hauser Estate Winery, which is in Biglerville. I did
Okay.
their Jack's Hard Cider for about 2 years. And at that point in time, I met the owner of the Millworks, and I was their original brewer there for in Harrisburg for about 7 years, and then just started here at Evergrain last June, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. I like the only name that like spoke out was Millworks. Like I moved here in 2017, and
Okay.
I knew nothing about Millworks. I mean, I've always loved craft beer, and Evergreen was the first one that
Oh, nice,
I like
good.
I ever came to after moving to like the Harrisburg area.
Yeah,
And of course, everyone told me I had to try Juice Juicy. Like I
yeah.
know, like everyone loves that one, but I found myself liking more stouts. So I mean, how do you? Is there anything with the beer that it's like newer that is like more like well different than a lot of the other types of beer like that, like stouts or double
You
IPA?
mean what, like Evergreen is
Yeah,
currently doing?
Evergreen itself.
Yeah. So like that's part of what um, transitioned me over to Evergreen was they don't we can brew whatever we want to brew. That's kind of the
Yeah.
approach that we take. If it tastes good, we'll brew it. And not that I didn't have that freedom to do that anywhere else, but this is kind of a place where the sky's the limit. We do obviously a ton of IPAs, hazy, West Coast doubles, and that's what the vast majority of people know us for. But we do brew a lot of like really good, clean, crisp lagers, good stouts. We got some really nice barrel aged stuff too. So that's it's nice to be at a brewery that isn't necessarily defined by one style. We
Yeah.
are obviously known for Juice Juicy and our hazies, but I think we do a really really nice job on all of our other stuff as well, including our stouts that you said about.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I've had everything that you all have made,
That
but
would be next to impossible. We've
yeah,
built a
no,
lot of beers. I
but
would be
I
impressed.
Yeah, I would be impressed and worried.
Yeah.
but
Yes. Right.
but like I said, I don't think I've had a beer from Evergreen that wasn't great.
Well, thank
Like
you.
the
Yeah. Yeah, we've got a really good team. We've got ownership that's really vested in it, and pretty much any decision we make here at Evergreen is, well, what makes the beer the best it possibly can. So we don't skimp on ingredients, equipment, which is kind of, it gives you as a brewer a lot of freedom to do what you want. So we take that excuse out of the bag as oh well, I couldn't afford such ingredient. That's
yeah,
not really our approach. We we have access to whatever we want, which is really nice from an ownership level.
yeah. And I mean the just and also the location of where you all are. Like when I first went there to try beer, like I was really, really like impressed by like how just on a scale that was of like you could fit so many people in there and like everybody has a it's not crowded in the sense that like it feels I don't know. I don't want to say like a store where like you're
Right.
bumping into people, but like it's just so large and I've almost rarely ever seen that place not completely packed.
Yeah, it's that's the our location, where we're at. I think the timing of when we opened up, we've
Mm-hmm.
been in business for, well, this is going on 8 years now. I think again the emphasis on just making good beer has really helped us. But yeah, you're right. There's very rarely a time where the tasting room is not busy. So that kind of, if it's busy here, that obviously means we're doing a good job brewing beer, because people wouldn't be coming. So it
Yeah,
is
no.
it's nice to see people, a crowded and busy day.
Awesome. Is there anything as far as um some stuff that like newer things that like you want to try with like making beer, any ideas like that that could be coming down the pipeline eventually?
Like I said, we kind of never let things stand still. So we're always moving forward. There's always ideas out there. To name anything specifically, beer wise, not that I can think of. We're always just developing new recipes and putting them out there. Really trying to institute. We've got a bunch of different sized tanks, but two of our tanks are actually like a little too small for any sort of production. So I'm really trying to steer those two tanks towards just the brewers beers, the beers that
Mm-hmm.
we want to brew as brewers. It could be an IPA, could be a stout, could be whatever we want to do. So I'm trying to give the other brewers who maybe don't have the experience, or maybe have ideas that have, it's maybe a little, trial and error,
Yeah.
before you jump into a big batch. So I'm really trying to get the other brewers a little bit more involved in that. I think it's fun to take a beer from your brain, put it on paper as a recipe, brew it through the system, and then finally taste it out the other end. I think it's very satisfying. That's something I'm really trying to move forward as well, which is fun. We do have, I don't know what the timeline is exactly, but we do have I'm not sure if you're aware, but we bought a building out on Lingelstown Road in Lingelstown. So that is going to be a new spot for us as well. I would think 2024 is probably not doable at this point in time. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but that's definitely something that's coming down the pipeline as well. So kind of exciting times.
Yeah, that should be awesome. And now, is that going to be where? Is it going to be set up like the one over in Camp Hill, or is that going to be just mainly a tap room, or will you make beer there as well? Or
Yes. So the building over there is humongous. So it actually was indoor soccer field. So we got
Mhm.
plenty of space. That's, I would say, our biggest hurdle here where we're currently at is production space.
Yeah.
So most of the production is going to be moving over to Linglestown. Most of the brewing equipment is. We are going to have obviously a tasting room over there as well. But to the best of my knowledge, we're going to obviously keep the Camp Hill location and move most of the production over to Linglestown now. It's a little bit better suited for a little bit higher volume. We could brew more beer, but you have to get a little bit creative about it. So we're kind of bursting at the seams a little bit here in Camp Hill. So
Yeah, I mean, was that initially like the the plan with how things are over at the Camp Hill location? Because I'll come there and sit at the bar, and I can, if I'm early enough, I can see people working
yeah,
behind the bar, which I think is a cool thing. So
yeah. I mean, I think that's getting to your point about like always being busy. I think that is something that uh, we're not necessarily unique in how we do that. You go to Troegs and their brewing equipment's right there too. But I think that is something that's very engaging to the customers is to have,
mhm.
you know, um, there's some days I don't necessarily want the customers looking at me while I'm brewing, but I think that there is definitely a level of engagement. You'll get the, hey, what are you doing up there? It smells great in here. What you brewing? And so
Mhm.
there is like a customer engagement level that can happen in that. If you were behind a wall or glass, that doesn't happen. So I think that that aspect will continue over to Linglestown as well. Maybe not quite as open. I don't know. I haven't seen all the
Yeah.
blueprints yet. But yeah, it is kind of fun to be just like right there in the midst of everything. You get to see and smell and hear everything we're doing, for better or for worse.
Yeah, and I mean that Linglestown area, that's a awesome location. I mean, it's kind of busy already, but like putting a brewery right there is, I mean, that's going to do so much for like the walkable community that's right there now.
Yeah, I think just the greater Harrisburg area, everywhere from Harrisburg to Hershey, along Linglestown Road is growing. But I think we're going to be close enough to Harrisburg to get the Harrisburg people. We'll be close
Mhm.
enough to Hershey to get the Hershey people. So I think from a location standpoint, it's going to be really good for us.
And I don't expect you to know like an exact answer, but um, how many locations are you all in as far as like where you could buy a 4 pack or a mix? Because I have not been into a giant that I haven't seen Evergrain in.
Yeah, so we operate our sales in three different ways.
Okay.
So we have obviously our tasting room. We have our sister location, Wild Rabbit, which is in New Cumberland. So you can obviously get to go beer at those. And then our local distribution, which is the greater central PA area, we actually do all that distribution ourselves. So we have our own vans,
Wow.
our own delivery team, so they're delivering to Giant, to Wegmans, to Glenn Miller's. And then we also have our wholesale side, which that that pretty much covers everything in the state of Pennsylvania outside of Central PA. So Pittsburgh, it's a pretty good location for us. Philly, and then we're in pretty much at this point in time, our wholesale sales covers all of Pennsylvania. It's obviously a little bit spotty based on geography. We are in Maryland, Delaware, New York, mostly New York City. And I think that's it for now. So yeah, it's the volume that we're at. It's very kind of a little bit niche market, so we can't like fully, just distribute to all of those locations. So we take care of our local market first, and then the wholesale locations. That's kind of our secondary avenue to get rid of some beer.
Yeah. I mean, just sheer amount of like places you all are. I mean, you have to be brewing most of the week.
Oh yeah. There's so the way our brewing system's set up, we do no. If we're doing a single brew, that's a slow day for us. So we're doing
Mhm.
anywhere from mostly 2 to 3 brew days. We're kegging and canning pretty much every day, transferring beer every day. So yeah, we I think we did roughly 7,500 barrels last year in 2023.
Oh wow.
And I mean, we might be able to do a little bit more this coming year with getting a little bit creative with our production schedule. But like I said, we're sort of at an impasse because of space. So hopefully, whenever Linglestown opens up, we can get some bigger tanks, and we could brew a significant amount more beer.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would assume that we'll have to come with like more people involved, like more people to help with that. More.
Oh yeah. Right now we've got a production team of 6 guys, and they do a really good job. But there comes a point as you grow, you obviously need to add people. We're responsible for everything from brewing the beer to packaging the beer to putting beer into the warehouse and shipping beer. So as you continue to grow as a company, I think you develop a little bit more specific jobs. So those are things that from a production level would be very nice if I didn't have to load orders on the back of a truck. I can focus on brewing and that kind of stuff. But it makes for a dynamic day, that's for sure.
What's your favorite beer right now? I mean, it could be Evergrain. I mean, Evergrain beer that you make. I assume that your favorite beer is going to be one that you make.
Well, not necessarily.
Okay.
I love our beer. I really do. I'm getting to the point where I'm kind of old and don't like thinking about beer so much. I mean, I love beer. It's my job. But there's sometimes where you just don't want to necessarily think about beer when you're having a beer. I think all of our beer is super solid. I'm a sucker for just a great lager. Be it a Pilsner or a Helles or something like that. Maybe I'm a little biased, but I think like Troegs Sunshine Pilsner's an amazing Pilsner. Beer that is out west that doesn't really come east. I don't know what their distribution is, but it's called Trumer Pils. Man, if you get a good one, that's an amazing European style Pilsner.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. I've got a soft spot in my heart for just a good German Pilsner or a Czech Pilsner.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good answer. I mean, now, whenever I drink beer, I don't have the palate experience, like, to know what I'm drinking. Does that usually, like, help or steer, like, whenever you're drinking a beer? Can you tell?
It's kind of a double-edged sword because sometimes you want to just drink a beer and enjoy it without evaluating it. But sometimes the more you know, the more you sit there and evaluate it, and then you just can't drink for enjoyment. And so you're just constantly, if it's like one of our own beers, you sit there and you drink it and you're like, ooh, I think it's, maybe it's not quite carbonated enough. Maybe it's I would like to try this hop, or maybe the body's not quite right. So, it's kind of this double-edged sword where, especially when it comes to your own beers, that you're just constantly evaluating it. And that, I guess that's part of the joy of being a brewer too, is to be able to do that and, have a knowledgeable palate that you can kind of make those changes. But sometimes it does make it difficult to just enjoy a beer without thinking about it.
Yeah, I find myself doing that a lot with, so I'm one of the managers at Zero Day, over in Harrisburg, like one of the taproom managers. So if I go to a place, I make it a point to just try to enjoy a beer.
Yeah, right. I know.
And like 0 days, like I feel like we're known for the mango hop. So if I see someone having a beer that has like that spicy flavor in it, I'm like, oh, is this what they do different? It is automatically, but yeah.
Yeah, it is. When you're in the industry, it's funny. Like, so obviously we drink beer and we enjoy it. And I mean, if we didn't, it would be a rough job to have. Yeah. But it is kind of, sometimes it's hard to take yourself out of your job and just sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah. That's different. I mean, yeah, I don't know what to say. I'm just thinking about like all the beers that I've tried and how many times I've had them and compared it to something that I know more about.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think that's something else too. It's like even if you're not like necessarily evaluating the beer in front of you, you might be comparing it to something that is similar.
Hmm.
Like trying to evaluate, hey, was that brewer trying to make this, clone of,
Yeah.
whatever. It is the more you do sort of just like sit there and think about it. It's I don't know, it's fun. It's a great job. It's a great industry to be in. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. It's just
Yeah.
very enjoyable.
What I assume that, with you going to college out in California, is there any like breweries that you've been to, like as far as like traveling, that you've gone like, this is like, it felt like, I won't say home, but it gave that evergreen feel that you all have.
Um, like our approach here at Evergreen is a little like different. I would say like we really only have one year-round beer, and everything else is just kind of, hey, whatever we want to do. So the yeah, to compare what we're doing to what other breweries are doing, it's very different. Every brewery
Yeah.
has a different mindset. Like, do we want to make one beer and just be known for it? I mentioned Schumer Pills, and I could be wrong at this. Maybe they make something like different for their local market, but they make one beer, to the best of my knowledge, one beer, and they do it amazingly.
Yeah.
And then you go to a place like us, which we have no less than 20 beers on tap, and probably 20 out in distribution. So there's not necessarily any wrong way of doing it. Every brewery has different approaches, different beer styles they want to make, different customer bases, different business models, and that's kind of the cool thing about this industry is there's not necessarily any wrong way of doing it as long as you're making good beer. There's
Yeah.
something for everybody out there. That's really cool.
Sweet, man. Well, I don't think I'll take up any more of your time. Thank you for sitting down and talking with
Yeah,
me.
absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Um,
Next time I'm in Zero Day, I'll come in and say hi.
oh yeah, I mean, if you all have a Dark Necessity still right now, I'll probably be by, not today, but
I
soon.
don't think that's on right now. We do have a barrel aged barley wine called Evil Mistress. You might want to give that one a try. Or
I'll for sure come try that one.
Mistress of Evil. Yeah, that one's pretty nice too. So, um,
Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks for talking. Again, look out for new episodes every other Thursday of Beer Talk, and don't forget to follow us on socials at cheers_PA, and check out cheerspa.com as well. Cheers.
cheers.